Turtle power is the new kryptonite.
Gamera Rebirth is a new anime from Netflix, original anime that's 6 episodes long, about 40 minutes a piece, which is pretty great, except for that last piece, which is even longer, about 50 minutes. I'm here to talk about whether it's any good, whether you should give it a go. Let's jump in. In the summer of 1989, 4 kids in Tokyo witnessed the emergence of the turtle kaiju Gamera, who bravely stands up against giant human-eating monsters. Now, we'll be talking about the ending. There's kind of 3 main points at the ending, doing a sort of ending explained with end credit scenes explaining that. But for now, this is just a review, and I'll give you a warning when you want to tap out if you don't want any spoilers. But let's carry on. Like I said, this took me by surprise because I was kind of gearing myself up to not enjoy this as much because of the CG use of the creature creations between what you have with Gamera and the other kaiju battle fest that's we're going in here. Very much kind of centered on young teens and that storyline. We are faced with 4 friends that to be part and center with a storyline that kind of pushes them into the big story of the Gamera and this organization that's trying to control it as always, and the government trying to stop people from dying in Japan. And that's what you get within this 6 episodes. But because each episode is 40 minutes long, we get quite a bit of story, or enough of the kids to know who they are, what they're about, a little bit how their group dynamic works. In a lot of these Japanese series, you get the sort of bullying theme, and then we have, thankfully, a character growth moment. I enjoyed that as part of the friends dynamic. I thought that helped give us something to sink our teeth into rather than just your 2-dimensional characters. Talking of which, I'm surprised that this is a 12 because there's a lot of F-bombs and F this and shit that and Christ that, and there's a number of, I guess you would class as adult language, also quite a bit of violence and sometimes decapitation, hands being chopped off, that sort of thing. So I would bear that in mind when watching this with really young ones, but I think teens will love this. And it's one of the first anime I've seen where it feels like they've taken a realistic look at how teens would talk, because parents are deluding themselves if they think that their teens don't swear. They might not in front of you, but behind your back, that may be a different story, depending on how strict your upbringing was, or how whatever your upbringing was. I'm not judging, I'm just saying it felt very natural the way they spoke, and so the dynamic between the friendships that grow in each episode I really enjoyed. But that's not really what we're here for. All these Godzilla movies, the Gamera movies, what you want in these stories is the big kind of fights, the punch-ups, the massive kaiju fights. That's what we are expecting, and that's what you get here. Basically every episode is Gamera fighting another creature of some sort and wondering how long he can keep fighting and protecting the humans, and why he is even protecting the humans. Now, there is a story that is better than I expected that creeps in there, that is the major arc, not just your natural fights which you get in here, which I really enjoyed, but it actually centers the kids nicely enough for you to care about the story, but not be it the thing that sidetracks the story. If you think back to some of the Godzilla movies, there's so much story about the humans that we don't care enough about. Some of them don't quite hit the mark. But when you get some of the other Godzilla movies that concentrates on the kaiju and the battles and how that looks, that's great. In this, that's the same sequence for me, at least. I liked the story with the kids. I cared enough for them, about them, to keep them around enough to kind of further the story and the plot. But when it came down to it, I just wanted to see what new moves Gamera was going to do. Now, I shouldn't really be comparing Gamera to Godzilla, because actually they're owned by 2 different licenses, and they're different. We'd need a new set of licenses if we were going to see Gamera enter into the legendary films that we've been having, you know, that kind of universe with Godzilla versus Gong. We haven't seen that yet because of who owns them. I wouldn't mind that. I think way back in the day we did see that crossover, but for now they're kind of separate universes. For me, I love the design and creature creations of Gamera. I love the moves that he does, although, you know, putting believability into any of this is ridiculous. When you see what Gamera can do, you're like, but how? You can't be asking that question, but how, in this. You just have to sit down and enjoy it for what it is. And that is monster fights, looking fairly good with that CG. And I understand why they went that way. Bulky, a lot of movement, but then kind of having the mixture of 2D in there, interspliced with the backgrounds, I think it looks good. So the character movements look good. The story is fairly good and entertaining. Now, when it comes down to what language you're going to listen to it, it depends on what you like to listen to anime in. I think the voice work in the English, is which I watched most of, is pretty good. I think you get those inflections, the emotional moments that you want, and that's fairly well done. And then the original Japanese, of course, is always the best way to go if you can handle that and you don't mind reading. Unless you understand Japanese and you don't have any issues, then Bob's your uncle.
And Bob's your uncle.
And so I think both of those moments are great. So all in all, it was actually a quite tight package.
Oh my god, look at my package.
It's a tight
like a tiger.
arc that is completed at the end, but it does leave it space and room to grow if they want to do more. So I'm going to give this a solid 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
And you got one. Congratulations.
I really enjoyed it for what it was, even though it's longer than your average anime episode. It's kind of 2 episodes in one, where you would get a standard 12 episode run through. Here they've just gone for 40 minutes and the standard Netflix 6. So I think it works quite well. I really liked the score, especially in the moments when Gamera turned up. It was like his sort of theme, interspliced with those stints of little quirks of music of other bits of monsters that you see. Whenever he pitches up, it kind of swells, and that works really well. So the design, the color palette, the score, the editing, and the language all work well to enhance the adventure that you're going to go through. Enough with the kids that they feel somewhat realistic and believable for you to care enough until we get that next big fight. So I thought this was a good one-time watch. So 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5. I'm going to be talking about the ending now, so this is your time to tap out. If you don't want any more, do give me a like and subscribe if you haven't yet. So there's kind of 3 moments I want to touch upon with the ending. One is with the crystal, where the guy that's been supposedly helping them the whole time. This series is set in 1989, I think that's right, before mobiles came into fruition, until everybody was using them properly. And here we see the design released, and I think we can surmise that he's taken that crystal, used that as the synthetic use of what you can do and use. And I feel like that's going to come into play in the second season because of the power, and everybody's mobile phones are then going to be an intricate network device and servers along with having that power, those crystal, whatever its genetic code is. Then we'll see what happens with season 2 with people's devices being used to power the new kaiju. Even though now we have technology that seems to have come quicker, much closer than it should have been used. So that was one bit I thought was really interesting. And then of course we have the little baby Gamera, who is the cutest thing. I think we should get little toys of him. He does his little cute little roar, but it's great to see that there's going to be a new fruition for he needs to grow quickly. They need to feed him well so that he can protect us once again. So that's basically what they've set up for a season 2. And one of the reasons why they didn't show us what happened to the 4th kid that saved them all, that was crashing down into Earth in his rocket, is because they wanted to save that bit for the end credit scene. So if you tapped out and didn't watch the end of the credits, you wouldn't have got that really cool scene and go, why didn't they actually tell us or show us what happened there? We get that little device where we hear his voice on and say, hey guys, where are you? I'm still here. I can surmise that he was saved in some way with the rockets, with its redundant system. So even though he didn't escape in the pod, a lot of rockets like that will have massive parachutes or some way to decrease its crashing, or he was actually saved by some other entity. He's definitely going to play a part in season 2, probably have them rescued. I presume there's more to this agency, that all of the bad guys weren't just wiped out on the moon and there were other kaijus about. I think we've established that there are probably a few that are extraterrestrial in nature. They keep hinting at that. So I'm thinking, if you've watched the early original films, you kind of can follow at the template of where possibly gonna go. I hope they do kind of incorporate some of the original moments. They've already incorporated some of the original movesets from Gamera and some of the other kaiju. I'm looking forward to see what others they're gonna do. Let me know in the comments which is your favorite creature design apart from Gamera that he fought, and what else you are hoping to see. Do you still want to cross over with Godzilla and those kaijus, or are you wanting to see some of those original movies, story creations kind of be put in for season 2? I do hope we get a number 2. I enjoyed this. I thought this was way better than I expected it to be. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long on Tuesday.